So far away, Lucas. We're kind of in the same boat at the moment because I'm petting my snoot and you're petting your sausage, aren't you?
I am indeed.
Like, this is not a euphemism. Lucas right now has about like 8 pounds of sausage. Right? How big's Cade? Oryx? Which one is it?
It's Oryx on my lap at the moment. Yep. He's I don't know how many pounds he is, but he's about 5 kilos.
Okay, so yeah, Lucas has 5 kilos of sausage on his lap. So if at any point during this video, from Lucas's end, you just hear just a crazy ass like sound of a dog going flipping its shit, that's because his dog has just suddenly decided, I need to get out. But
he was barking for attention while we were recording a minute ago, and I just was like, I'm just gonna grab the Oodie, settle him on my lap, and hope that he just stays quiet during recording.
Just wrap him up like a little burrito. But yes, while Lucas is doing that, we're going to be talking about Meryl Streep. Meryl Streep doesn't need me or indeed anybody else to tell her that she's a good actor. The house full of awards that she's gotten probably does that. But we are here today to talk about one aspect of Meryl Streep's repertoire as an actor that is seemingly only something she is able to do. Her uncanny ability to replicate near enough any accent of any person she happens to meet near flawlessly within seconds. And first of all, Lucas, you'd think that learning accents would be one of the first things any actor would learn to do because it seems pretty essential to an actor's repertoire to be able to pretend to be someone who's not you, right?
Yeah, you would think so if you were not familiar with acting and the process, yes.
Yeah, it's like literally there's a joke in Friends where they establish that one of the reasons that Joey is a terrible actor is that he can't do accents. The only accent he can do is Jamaican. And every accent he tries to do sounds Jamaican. Where he's like, the South will rise again, man.
What the hell are you talking about? The South will rise again, man.
And they joke about him being a terrible actor for that and many other reasons. But despite this, in drama school, seemingly learning accents is not that big a deal. And there are many big actors who are worth many hundreds of millions of dollars who can't do an accent for shit.
Oh, bloody hell.
My favourite example being Tom Cruise. And Tom Cruise has played a lot of characters over his career, but he pretty much always plays Tom Cruise, even when the person he's playing is a real person from an area that's not America. Like when he played like von Stauffenberg, the German officer who tried to assassinate Hitler by putting a bomb in his briefcase and just leaving it in his, meter. And that's for the film Valkyrie.
The very notable German who had a very notably American accent, right?
They tell me you're critical of the war, Colonel, not that you don't seem to have good reason.
I am critical of indecision, General.
In the field?
In Berlin.
And during the production of Valkyrie, there was a lot of column inches in the industry press given to the fact that Tom Cruise couldn't do a German accent. And they kept asking the director, hey, are you going to get Tom Cruise to do a German accent? Because that trailer looks real fucking bad. Like, the trailer for Valkyrie makes it look like Tom Cruise is the shittest spy ever. Like, he looks like Brad Pitt's character in Inglourious Basterds. So it's like, arrivederci.
That's literally what I was going to say. You need to put a clip in off.
It sounds like that. And what?
Mi scusi con me? Gorlami. Ancora una volta. Gorlami. Come si chiama lei? Antonio Margareti.
What the director said is, it's like, well, we didn't want any of our actors to affect a German accent because that would draw people more out of the movie. So we asked them to just speak in their natural accent and hope that the story would be enough to grab people's attention, which is the most obvious code for Tom Cruise can't do an accent, because other actors in the film affect a German accent.
The colonel, whose name I will not mention, are condemned to death.
General, my orders are to take these men alive.
Noted, Major.
Just Tom Cruise doesn't. Because he couldn't do one.
Like, you've got to commit one way or the other with that.
Yeah, that's the thing. It's like either get everyone to speak in an American accent and hire no German actors, or hire all German actors or actors who can speak German convincingly or can affect a German accent. Like, Michael Fassbender's right there. Like, Michael Fassbender speaks fluent German.
Yeah, it's pretty embarrassing, my German, really. I mean, I can understand it much better than I can speak, but I have to improve. Believe
me, there are people living in Germany maybe for 20 years. They're maybe coming from the south. They don't speak such a good German than you. So your German is really cool. Believe me.
That's kind of you to say. Thank you.
Fucking Christoph Waltz. How many languages does he speak in?
Like 50 or whatever, right? And there are countless other examples. Like one of my favourites has to be, just because it's the most embarrassing, because again, you know the actress couldn't do it. And it's Halle Berry in X-Men, where in the first X-Men movie, she tries so hard to do an African accent, and it's so bad. So bad, in fact, that in the second and third movies, she just stopped speaking with it.
About 17. My height. Has brown hair. And she...
Well, yeah, think about Scarlet Witch in the MCU as well.
Yeah, with how...
She took on an American accent real quick when they moved her to the Avengers campus.
Yeah, when they realise that, Elizabeth Olsen can't do a very good, vaguely Eastern European accent, or at least not for a while.
Where are my children?
Where are my children? Oof! That accent really comes and goes, doesn't it?
Because you really hear the American come out every now and again. It's you can't do that for an entire... You can't even manage to hold on to it for a scene, let alone an entire movie.
And did they get Aaron Taylor-Johnson to change his accent in the next movie?
He wasn't in it. He was already dead. But that's the thing, right? And there's so many examples of this, of just actors not being able to do good accents. And you'd think it'd be the most basic thing for an actor, right? Acting is just pretending to be someone else. Part of pretending to be someone else is speaking like that person, right?
Yeah.
You'd think it'd be the first thing you'd learn, and for some reason, millionaire actors can't do it. So many of them, in fact, to the point where they will try to do it live on camera and fuck up in the film.
Yes, I think the universe was created from an explosion. Can you imagine that, Leah?
I'm Joseph Donnelly, of the family Donnelly.
I leave you in the grace and favour of the Lord.
Yeah, and there's a lot of kind of more, British skewing actors that seem to be better at doing Americanized accents than vice versa.
Well, you have Benedict Cumberbatch, right? Where he speaking of comic book movies, Doctor Strange. Mm-hmm. A perfectly serviceable American accent from a British actor.
I call it the Strange policy.
Oh, well, good. I'm glad something's named after me. I invented the laminectomy procedure, and yet somehow no one seems to want to call it the Strange technique.
We invented that technique.
Hugh Laurie, Dr. House.
Oh, how terribly foolish of me, Doctor. Is it that late? Yes, I'm calling from London, you see. Must have got my times mixed up, so...
And what makes the Dr. House example funny is that the director of the first season of House, who helped cast Hugh Laurie, who said, and I quote, "That's who I want for the role, an American," met Hugh Laurie and then realised that he was a British person affecting a very convincing American accent, was Bryan Singer, the guy who directed Valkyrie, who said accents aren't important.
And I remember listening to an interview from Idris Elba talking about how he got his role on The Wire. And a casting agent had told him they do not want to hire anyone that's not, American and can identify with the experiences that are going to be portrayed on the show. And he went through multiple casting calls while pretending to be this American guy who grew up in America. Meanwhile, he's from, London, I think. And it was only in, the third or fourth, round of casting that some Irish guy apparently basically called him out on it.
And, there are many examples of American actors sucking ass at doing accents, there are countless examples of British actors kicking all kinds of ass at doing American accents. And one of my favourite examples is Stephen Graham. Very, very good working British actor who was supposedly the first choice to play Al Capone in Boardwalk Empire. And he was personally contacted by the guy writing Boardwalk Empire as their first choice to play Al Capone because they couldn't find any American actors who could do a convincing enough accent to sound like Al Capone. They had to go all the way to Britain to get Stephen Graham to do it.
Bloody hell.
And this is how Stephen Graham speaks normally.
I don't mean to drop a name on, but when Marty phoned me and asked me to play Al Capone, he phoned me up and asked me to play Al Capone. I was a little bit shocked at first, but what we wanted to do is try and create a character that not a lot of people had seen before.
This is him as Al Capone.
You want to pick on people who can't defend themselves? Huh? Pay for his funeral.
Like, we're probably hyping up British actors a bit too much here, and the Americans getting mad. So let's, talk about now a British actor who can't do an accent to save their life, and talk about Sean Bean. I'm in Sheffield right now. We've got to talk about Sean Bean, or as it's pronounced in Sheffield, Sean Bean. Or as he pronounced it, O2, connecting people.
Yeah, just like who famously made everybody else in the Stark family become fucking Yorkshire because he couldn't be arsed changing his accent.
One of my favourite stories about Sean Bean is that when they cast him as Ned Stark in Game of Thrones, he was supposedly the only choice. They said, well, Ned Stark's Sean Bean. Everyone else, it's fine. Sean Bean's playing Ned Stark.
He dies in the first book, so it's got to be Sean
Bean.
It's
a character who's very northern and dies. That's Sean Bean. But supposedly when they contacted him, he was aware of the fact that no one else was being considered for the role. So when the casting director's like, do you mind changing your accent? He looked and went, no. And everyone else in the Stark family had to copy his accent.
Oh, I'm sure he said something along the lines of no.
Bastard.
Yeah, and then that's when Kit Harington was supposedly the most annoyed about it, because he has the accent furthest removed from Sean Bean's.
Mm-hmm.
And here's the thing, it doesn't necessarily paint any of these people as bad actors, but it does paint them as limited ones, right?
Yeah, like naturally you're going to be more limited if you can do less variety of things, right?
Like you're going to be naturally limited to the roles that you can play if you can only do one accent, your own.
Unless you're Tom Cruise.
Or like an Arnold Schwarzenegger, where it becomes kind of your brand. But then you have Meryl Streep, when she just comes swaggering all the way in, and basically, for every role Meryl Streep has ever done, whatever accent she is required to do has been next to flawless, and native speakers from the places that she's emulating have said it's near indistinguishable from someone they grew up with. And you might think, okay, that's good, but where's that fact-feeding twist? Well, the twist is that Meryl Streep is really, really committed to the point where it goes beyond what you'd expect from just an actor. For example, when she was cast to play Margaret Thatcher, she didn't just learn to affect Margaret Thatcher's accent. She studied tapes of her before and after she received elocution lessons. I'm leaving that take in, because me saying elocution lessons wrong is too funny, but people don't know, Margaret Thatcher actually spoke with a broad northern accent when she was younger, and then she received enunciation lessons and elocution lessons to speak in the received pronunciation accent that most people would recognise her for.
And it really is very, very high up here. Over the years, that was brought lower because it doesn't sound as good. It sounds patronising. Very, very high.
And how did Meryl Streep learn how to talk in the accent of a soulless fucking husk?
I don't know. And I kept thinking, like, should I make a joke about Margaret Thatcher burning in hell? I was like, I don't need to, because people can hear my accent and know that I fucking hate her.
I am celebrating, yeah. I'm celebrating the fact that Margaret Thatcher is dead today. And I'm here to celebrate with everyone else, symbolically, to just to say everything she stood for, I'm opposed to. And I'm proud to be with people that come out here and say, I am celebrating, yeah.
And speaking of, like, the Iron Lady, I'm reminded of a great story told by Elizabeth Coleman, because she was working on that movie as well. And she was taking a photo with Meryl Streep. And Meryl Streep was like, she was trying on the fake dentures to make her look like Margaret Thatcher. And she was like going around like, ooh, look at me, I'm British. And she went over to Elizabeth Coleman and took a selfie. And they went, ooh, should we take one without the stupid teeth in? And Elizabeth Coleman, no, these are mine.
And then she said, hey, let's all three of us have a photo with our funny English teeth. And I went, mine are real.
Oh, what an accidental dunk on Olivia Colman.
Which as well, obviously Elizabeth Colman didn't give a fuck. She just doesn't care. And I'm not sure if it was Meryl Streep or Gillian Anderson, because I know both of those actresses played Margaret Thatcher in separate projects, but one of those projects involved Elizabeth Colman, and she took a photo with whoever it was portraying Margaret Thatcher at the time, wearing their big, dumb, false teeth. And that line came out, and it's like, oh, God. It's like, you've got to own it, right? If there's one thing British people are known for, it's having shit teeth.
Yeah, and obviously I think, as most stereotypes are, I think it gets stereotyped to be worse than it is, but, you know, It's one of those, if we don't all have like perfectly white, perfectly straight teeth, it's definitely for sure.
And it just makes people look weird when they have that. It's like when you see like Jimmy Carr now, and he looks like a ventriloquist doll.
What do you think?
People are scared of going to the dentist, aren't they? I know you're not, but some people are.
I was wondering about your teeth. Do you have are these for best, those teeth? Do you have a set for just wearing at home?
Yeah, these are for special, these are for best.
There's your best teeth.
It really is depressing when you see people who are like in their 20s and stuff going and getting like the big, massive like veneers and stuff that don't fit their mouth properly, and it's like, oh no, you've fucked up your mouth like ever now.
Yeah, it's like you had fucked up teeth before, but now you can't shut your mouth to cover them.
Yeah.
And I do wonder as though, 'cause people like that tend to go on a lot of holidays, and I do think, how would you go like on? Could you go on safari? Surely the ivory hunters would be straight after you. Be wild, right? But anyway, but bringing it back to Streep now, we've got to talk about her role in Sophie's Choice, which required her to speak 3 languages: English, German, and Polish. But here's the thing: she didn't just learn to speak those 3 languages. She then learned to speak those 3 languages with an accent. And here's the thing about learning to speak another language: languages aren't a monolith. Like, English isn't the only language where they have accents. There are accents in Polish. There are accents in German. Like, we mentioned Michael Fassbender earlier. That happens in Inglourious Basterds, right? That's literally how they get caught out, because, you know, there's that dude at the table who recognises specific German accents and cannot pinpoint where Michael Fassbender's accent comes from. So you speak fluent German, but I don't recognise the accent. You speak German too perfectly. You speak it like someone who learned it as a second language. Where are the affectations you would have as a person who grew up in this country?
Corlomi? Lo pronuncio correctamente? Sì, corretto.
And one example of that I found really funny is there was a little like discussion trend, whatever you want to call it, going around for a little while on social media of if you do like, I think it was like a Northern Californian accent while speaking Japanese, it makes you sound like you're a sim. And I was like, those clips were great of people doing it.
And in specific regards to Sophie's Choice, Meryl Streep had to learn to speak those 3 languages with a Polish accent. So she had to learn to speak Polish with the accent of a person from the region of Poland her character was from. Then she had to learn to speak German, but specifically German from the perspective of somebody who learned to speak German as their second language with Polish as their first, and then learn to speak English with the accent of a person who learned it as their third language who was originally from Poland.
I didn't really think about getting an accent, but I really wanted to speak Polish. And I thought if I learned to speak Polish, then the diphthongs and the sounds of that language would be in my mouth, sort of. And so I just went to Berlitz and got a teacher.
But you didn't know that you were going to have to be speaking German, because that was originally written in English, and Alan was terrified to approach you and say, oh, by the way, while you're shooting the rest of this movie, do you mind learning German?
So effectively she had to learn 2 languages and 3 ways of speaking. Like Polish if it were her first language, English if it were her third, and then German as if it was her second.
And like that's the thing we've talked already in this episode. Most people struggle to learn a different accent in their own language.
Yes, and she learned to speak multiple different languages with a specific accent, and the accent that she was speaking those languages in is not an accent native to her homeland. Right? Wild. It's no wonder she won an Oscar for that role.
There is no American poet by the name of Dickens.
I'm sorry, no, that is, I'm sure, American poet. Emil Dickens.
Listen.
I
told you. There's no such person. You want me to draw you a picture? No. I'm telling you, you hear me?
All right.
And there are numerous other examples of Streep affecting a flawless accent from Dutch to Italian to Australian. And in regards to that latter one, she actually affected such a convincing Australian accent for a role, she received an award from the Australian Film Institute for being the only non-Australian actor to convincingly put on an Australian accent. The Australian Film Institute literally gave her an award for being the only actor they'd ever seen do a convincing Australian accent.
It was on the move through the fly screen.
Do you know there was no blood found on the fly screen, do you?
I presume there hasn't been, because it hasn't been mentioned.
Well, that's when you know you've done it right.
And I can't imagine the frustration of being Australian, having an accent that everyone seems to know, then always gets immediately wrong.
Well, it really threw me off, because you're aware that I've been getting through Prison Break for the first time.
Yes.
And at one point in Season 3, this guy that I was certain to this day that he's a British dude, he just turned around at one point and was like, oh yeah, the Australian guy. I was like... every single time I've seen him on camera since I've been... He's still doing a British accent, though.
Yep. But they think he's Australian.
I lost them. You need to come and pick me up.
Where are you?
And I don't know if that's like his character's actually Australian and he's doing a bad accent, or whether the character in the show mistook him for being Australian. I don't know.
Well, something we talked about over on Wiki Weekends, which is back, and you can find a link to it below. Me and Lucas, we brought Wiki Weekends back. Fact Fiend was brought back itself to promote other projects like Wiki Weekends. And we talked about Billy Butcher, Karl Urban, who has the most obvious, blatant Kiwi or New Zealand accent I've ever heard. And he keeps getting all this praise from Americans about that's such a good British accent. And as a British person, when he's playing Billy Butcher, all I hear is, oh, he's obviously from New Zealand.
And I'm literally watching sweat dripping down your red tomato face.
Was I at the gym or was I so excited that we were going to be talking to
Bright
Bella?
red.
Bright red.
Great New Zealand accent, Billy. Thanks.
Thanks.
He's obviously not actually Cockney.
Yeah, he's got a new, very distinct Kiwi accent, doing a pretty middling Cockney accent.
A decent Cockney.
Apparently it was so good that it fooled every American in the casting process, because none of them could tell that. It's like, I hear it in second one. Why is he still doing his New Zealand accent?
All right, keep your ear on, love. We just want a little chin wag's all.
Talk American?
Right.
Like, why is this Cockney guy not fully Cockney? So it was only when in the show they say that he's Cockney, I was like, oh, that's where he's meant to be from, right? Okay.
And it's just as an English person, I immediately twigged that he's not doing a Cockney accent. And for anyone curious, like, what does a good Cockney accent sound like? Here's a clip from Only Fools and Horses with David Jason doing it.
How much do you spend on hairdressing, eh? It's got to be £6 or £7 quid these days, isn't it? Now, you work that out over a year and it comes to a national debt, right? But for just £1.50, you can invest in one of these super deluxe trimming combs.
And one final thing about Streep is that, she's very humble about this talent that she has, flatly denying that she is a great actor. And one of my favourite moments of her career is when she was being asked about this on stage. And I think it's a guy from Bristol. He asks her, Miss Streep, you're really, really good at doing accents. What's the secret to that? And Streep responded to that guy in his own accent. I listen.
You're renowned for your ability to adopt different accents. How do you carry out your research, and do you stay in character when you're not on the set?
I listen.
And she'd only heard it once when that guy spoke it and responded in his own accent within seconds. She'd already mastered it.
It's very, very hard for me not to slip into what I hear around me. Very hard.
So what you're saying is that Meryl Streep is actually an AI voice generator?
What I'm saying is, Lucas, right? There's no evidence that Meryl Streep is an alien from another planet learning to emulate human behaviour that is then going to use that knowledge to take over the world. What I am saying, though, is that if that alien existed, Meryl Streep could beat it to death, pretend to be it, and the aliens would never know. She's that good.
Oh.
But to end on, Lucas, we've been talking about accents, and myself and you have, to me, pretty distinct but muted accents for the regions that we're from. I'm originally from Yorkshire, grew up in Yorkshire, but I downplay the broadness of my accent for the primarily American audience that we have. You're from Liverpool, you have a Liverpudlian accent, or Scouse accent, which you tend to downplay and tone down for the American audience that we're listening to. But, you know, have you got a favourite accent out there? I'm not going to ask you to do it, because neither of us can do accents, but is there any accents out there you're a fan of?
I'm a big fan of one we mentioned, which is the Kiwi accent.
I can't do it. We're not doing it. We're not doing any examples of these because we suck.
No. I'm not going to pretend like I can do them, but I'm also a fan of probably a lot of different Irish accents and Scottish accents. I just don't specifically know which ones because there is a wide selection, but I know that I've heard some Irish and Scottish people speak where I found their voices very soothing, and I couldn't pinpoint where exactly they were from.
Yeah, it's like the Scottish and Irish brogue. It's a very soothing accent. There are multiple studies that get done on like the attractiveness of various accents, and the one that always tricks me is they say that the Yorkshire accent is quite attractive. No, it's not. Sean Bean is just a handsome guy with a very, very satisfying voice to listen to. But the one about them that gets me is they say the Birmingham accent is the least attractive.
Oh, I was going to say, there is no way on earth you can convince me that anyone finds Brummie an attractive accent.
And it's to the point where they did a study of attractiveness and perceived intelligence based on accent. And the Brummie accent it was the least attractive and it was the least intelligent below not speaking. So the way they did the study is they got people to answer questions in various accents and then had people watch that footage and asked someone, how intelligent do you think this person sounds? And the person with the Brummie accent answering the question correctly was perceived as less intelligent to the person who didn't answer the question. Which is just bad, right?
I've yet to meet a person that speaks in a Brummie accent that talks reasonably quickly. It's just
a more relaxed way of
so
life out
slow.
That's why people in Birmingham sound the way they do. They're cursed to forever go between high and low, bouncing in between, never fully settling on a sound, but bouncing from north to south, over and over again. I can't help it, they're stuck in a fucking vortex. And that's the history of the Birmingham accent.
I'll tell this story multiple times. I'm going to tell it again because it's my favourite story.
Oh, no.
And I dated a girl who was from Birmingham. And she spoke like a proper Brummie. And I just remember the first time we were intimate, you know, because I'm a caring and considerate lover. I asked her afterwards, like, how was that for you? And I just never forget, she just went, that was great. And
I don't know, every time you do it, it gets less and less like the correct accent. Because that sounded like you were like fucking Billy Connolly or something, but...
I'll never forget it. It's like, oh no, this I'm so sorry, this relationship cannot continue, but oh, it's so bad. Oh man. Oh, but you know, speaking of like, you know, like film and TV and stuff like that, I am reminded there's a few actors out there similar to like your Hugh Laurie's and your Stephen Grahams who affect very convincing accents to the point where people don't actually realise where they're from. For example, the show Frasier, which we did do a Wiki Weekends episode on. The guy who plays Frasier's dad was originally from Manchester. He was originally from Manchester, which is where the character of Daphne Moon is from. And you had Jane Leeves affecting a Mancunian accent to a guy who's from Manchester pretending to be American.
I'm just going to say, before people get really angry, I think it's Mancunian.
Mancunian, my bad, sorry. I'm just trying...
I know people are going to... There's going to be Mancs in the comments like, no!
Well, if they're from Manchester, like, why are you not saying a Manc accent? I mean, it's for the Americans who want me to speak properly. Yeah. I just found that funny. Yeah, it's he's affecting like a very like convincing American accent to the point where when he was off set and started speaking with his native Manchester accent, people were like, wait, what?
I don't why. I'm so sick of me hair. Do you think I should get it cut like Princess Di? Ooh, do you think that'd make me cheeks look too fat? That reminds me of the craziest thing me Grammy Moon used to say. I'll pay for the damn haircut if you stop yakking and just do it.
Yeah, and that's the thing, right? It's like, it's a fucking superpower if you can do it well.
Oh yeah, absolutely. It's you hear all the stories, don't you, about like actors who do it really well, like Gary Oldman, where he had to go to a voice like coach to get his native accent back because he immersed himself so much in his American role, he started to lose his native British accent, and he was pissed off with it. Or Cillian Murphy. Did you hear about this, where he moved away from London when his kids started speaking with an English accent? And went straight back to Ireland. Went, fuck that. As soon as he heard his kids say, all right, Dad, he went, fuck that, back to Ireland.
Yeah.
What a legend.
A correct move.
What an absolute legend. But any more examples like that of like actors where people might not realise where they're from because they're just so convincing at playing the role that they do?
I couldn't tell you who it was, but I did find it funny when I recently just saw like an ad pop up where it was like two people doing, a press tour, and they were talking about this show where they were both meant to be characters from Ireland. And one of the two actors said like, oh yeah, my voice coach had to teach me to be Irish. And then the other Irish woman sitting next to her was like, wait, you're not Irish?
Oh, that's why it's good though, right? When people from that region think you are from there. Like I said with Meryl Streep. Like the Australian Film Institute gave her an award, like you're the first person we've seen in a film do an actual convincing Australian accent that's not real bad or really offensive.
Yeah.
And it's just, it's an underappreciated aspect of like acting for some reason, despite the assumption being it would be the first thing most actors would learn.